On this episode of Travels with Bill, we're watching these fine gentlemen celebrate what's been months of work. We're at the Swan Valley Co-op Agro site where they're about to open their brand new fertilizer facility. Well, there you go. It's officially open. Well, certainly they didn't get to this without a bunch of work, and we're going to show you some of what they've done here. This is the finished product, how the fertilizer site looks when it's all ready to go. But here's how it started out. We're back in time now when they'd only dug the hole, and we first happened out here to see what was going to be a brand new facility. Well, this is the fall of 2021, and the grand opening was in the spring of 2022. If you look really closely, you can actually see the sump pump trying to keep that hole dry. Well, back to the finished product here. It certainly looks a lot better now than when they started. Hard to believe it can change so much in so little time. Well, we're going to take a look inside today to see how this all works. Well, there wouldn't be much magic at all if we didn't have trucks coming in with fertilizer, and we of course need to start outside where we tell the story of the trucks that arrive bringing the product that will eventually end up with the farmers in this really state-of-the-art facility. Now, Swan River may not know it. Well, they probably do, but they've got something here that's a jewel. Not a lot of fertilizer facilities are this well done. Well, we start like a truck would start, driving on up the ramp here. Now, in their old facility, it could take quite a while to unload a truck, but here they tell us 15 to 20 minutes can unload an entire Super B of fertilizer into the facility. That means trucks spend less time waiting, and there's a lot more happy truckers too. Plus, you don't have to worry about running out of product as much because you can get new stuff just as quick as you need. Well, here's a first look at some of the groundbreaking automation here. They can remote control everything about unloading from right out here at the unloading bay. Of course, many more controls to see inside. Once it comes out of the truck, comes through the screw auger here, and then into the leg, of course, and up it goes way into the ceiling. Now, eventually what's going to happen is this dumps down into the big storage areas inside the building. We were invited for tour day, so you'll see there's a lot of tables that aren't normally here. But in the background there, you see those big doorways? Well, that, of course, is going into where they store the fertilizer. Then it's moved across from there to these bins using a bobcat. The bins are pretty cool. They're all waste stations, too. Well, here's our tour guide, Jim Sutherland. Now, when we were filming, he, of course, was in charge of this place, but not for long. His retirement's just days away, so this grand opening party is really also his goodbye.
So this is where the magic happens. All the farmers nowadays are looking for micronutrients.
So these are all liquids, and of course they're being pumped into the main facility. You can see all of the pumps on the wall there. It's all fully automated, so nobody has to come down here. From the upstairs, they just type in what it is they need, and the system does it for them. The fertilizer comes out the other end.
So I had previously mentioned there's 10 hoppers here on scales. Everything is extremely automated, extremely accurate. More accurate than what we were doing in the past. The other was suitable. This is almost bang on exact perfect.
When he's talking bang on exact perfect, he's talking 10, 50, maybe 100 kilograms on a whole load that could be thousands of kilograms. Each one of those is completely computer controlled, so it knows exactly how much fertilizer is in the bin. Then as it dispenses it, knows exactly how much has left. All you have to do after that is mix it up, add the nutrients to it, add the coatings, and get it on into the truck. All you really need is some place to control the process.
The control room is up top. Through that window you can see the control room up there. That's where the operators push the buttons to tell us what the customer wants.
And then, of course, the augers bring it on together. From both sides, they dump into the middle here, and then you see where it's kind of disappearing out? Well, that's where they can put the coatings on. You actually see the pipes coming there from that room we saw earlier. They squirt in there, and of course, as it augers out, that's mixing it all together. Now, where we're standing, there's a grate, so they could dump stuff straight into the auger system if they needed to. For the most part, though, the computer's doing all the work. So really what's happening is a guy in a bobcat here is taking stuff out of the bins, dumping it into these hoppers, and he needs to keep up. The bobcat has a little tablet in it that tells him what's getting low and where he needs to dump next. He can interact with the system while he does that, so it knows where he's going to put product into. That keeps it from taking it out of that hopper while it's going in, so nothing gets confused. Well, up the stairs we go into the control room. Of course, windows here to the outside as well as to the inside, so the operators can see where they're loading trucks or where they're getting the product all blended together and check out all the buttons. I know you want to push some, because even I want to push some, but I did resist. Scales there on the left side. Here's the control panel for everything that's going on out there so they can stop stuff. The real power, though, is in the desktop computers. They type the orders into there, they make them, then they transfer them across to billing, and by the time it's going into your truck, well, they're printing the invoice to make sure you're being charged. If you're like me, you want to see what's down the stairs also, because what's under the hoppers is probably as interesting as everything we saw up top.
So these are the declining weight hoppers. Everything is on load cells up top here. So as we batch, it's keeping track of how much product's coming out. Wireless. This is kind of wireless technology here that communicates to upstairs. For the spring run, we have 46 on these first 3 hoppers. Nitrogen stabilizer is a thing of the future. We've been marketing it here for probably 6-7 years now. It's legally has to be put on in the United States already. It's likely to happen here, but it is money well spent. A lot of our growers are using it now. It just protects the 46 to gassing off, volatilization, things like that. So this again, out of the impregnation room, the product comes down here. There's a spray bar that shoots it on the product as it goes by.
One of the interesting things I find is how clean the plant is. Now, I know it's the grand opening, we're having a tour, so you think, well, they've never used it. But the reality is they actually ran the entire spring season through here, then they had the grand opening when things slowed down a little bit. So all this equipment's well used, but it's still incredibly clean, and the whole place looks immaculate.
This is another micronutrient that we sell here. It's the Wolf Track products. Copper, boron, manganese also can be applied through this system here. Same thing, it drops it on the product as it goes by.
Recognize that hole well off the top when we looked at that drone shot. Remember there was like that T-looking hole they dug? Well, there's part of it. Then of course it goes the other way out to the leg, and this part we're walking in now. That's why that hole got made in the first place. There's a little close-up at some of those applicator bars where they're spraying the product on. Then of course we carry on out to the leg where it's eventually going to go up to the big mixer hopper and then dump down into the trucks.
In the breezeway, fertilizer and concrete aren't friends. It creates humidity, creates condensation. One of the recommendations by the builder, High Tech, was to put in-floor heat, and so we did that. It was an expense, but 2 days ago this floor was just mucky from fertilizer dust and condensation. The floor heat just got turned on yesterday afternoon actually, and it's went from being really, really slippery wet to pretty well dry. Once it's on for a couple days, it'll just maintain it and keep it nice and dry all the time. So, if you went to our old shed today, you'd almost need rubber boots on. It's that wet. It just pulls the humidity out of the air and the dust that's in the buildings.
Big place like this needs a lot of electricity, so we'll take a quick peek inside the electrical room. You can see the floor heat there on the left-hand side, then lots of panels, lots of wires, and an awful lot of electricity to make all those motors do just what they're supposed to. Well, certainly it's time to head on outside and see this part of it too. This, of course, where the customers end up to make sure they get the fertilizer they need, and how they do it, well, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, basically our customers pull in underneath here. We do have line of sight contact with them. Street light system here that the customers can watch in the rear view mirror. We can activate the lights to green to pull ahead to the next hopper, because they've got, Super will have 4 hoppers in it. A lot of the tandems or tries will have 2 or 3 hoppers. We can see into the bottom from up top, tell where and we know how many tons should go to each. Move the customers along with the lights. Once they're done, print their batch ticket out, bring it down and hand it to them.
But just how big is this place?
And that was over there at the old site. They call that a 25-ton hopper. It'll hold about 21 tons. So if Scott pulls in for a Super V load, we have to run a batch, dump it, run another batch, dump it, and your chances are you got to run a little 2-ton batch to finish up. This here, we just run the whole thing in the one shot. This will hold 50 tons, they say, depending on density of product. You could still get, the lightest product we sell is 46. You can still get a full Super V in here.
Now you can imagine the time savings. If instead of doing 3 batches, you're only doing 1 batch, well, customers get through here a lot quicker. That means they spend less time waiting and more time farming. Farming, of course, is where the money is. Waiting in line, well, doesn't do much for anyone, does it? So what if you were a truck and driving through? Well, we'll walk through here for a minute just so you can see exactly what it looks like, because it's pretty cool. That is a huge tank to put the fertilizer in before it dumps down into the truck. Now, once it's dumped into the truck, of course, they could start on the next batch already while the next truck's getting there and getting ready to go. So it's almost continual output. Well, that's why, of course, they need such continual input, too. They need to get the fertilizer in just as quick to make sure they're not running out. Check out the size of that chute. Well, it's going to fill a truck up incredibly quickly, isn't it? Well, that's pretty much the tour of the facility now. Once you see where the fertilizer comes out, you can imagine it's almost time for the truck to drive away. How will it do that? Well, take a look at those traffic lights they talked about a little bit earlier on. When they turn green, it's time to get going. Well, it wouldn't be much of a whole show here if we weren't also going to look at the celebration that was held, because there was a lot of celebration here, including some really nice cookies, some great fruit, all of this coming from the co-op. Swan Valley Co-op has a food store in Swan River, so it's not just the ag division. They're pretty diversified into a bunch of different things, and some amazing eats to be had. That pulled pork was absolutely amazing. The salad's pretty good too, so overall, I was glad I got invited. A lot of other people showed up too, just a little bit of a look at the crowd here. Lots of farmers came in. Now, this was held in June, so most of the whole seeding thing was done already. The fertilizer was applied, and well, it was really going to be time for some spraying, I suppose. High-Tech Installations did all the work here. Turns out the guy that runs High-Tech is actually an old neighbor of mine, so kind of nice to see him out as well. Co-op had some door prizes here for the farmers that came out, and of course lots of pens too. They know how to hold a really good party. Some speeches to get us going for the day. This is Colin Peters. He's the general manager of the co-op.
Swan Valley Co-op is committed to continuous improvement in providing the essential needs of our members, helping them grow the crops that help feed the world. It's this commitment that drives us to embark on milestone projects like this one, which wouldn't be possible without our customer support. Thank you for entrusting our ag team with your business.
With that, we want to present you from High-Tech with a check for $5,000 to the foundation.
That's Craig Senchuk. He's the CEO of High-Tech Installations, presenting $5,000 to the Community Foundation to help memorialize this project and all the work they did here. He said that the crew that was here working really wanted to give something back to the community because they found the Swan Valley such a wonderful place to be while they were doing the project, and they thought that's something that should go on forever. Well, a quick peek at the entire Co-op Agro site before we go. In the foreground, a fuel storage facility. That's Federated Co-op with fuel from their Regina refinery. In the middle, the original kind of Co-op Agro site there. They're selling some feed products for cattle and such. You can see the original fertilizer shed there too. And then far out, that's the new shed that we were looking at the opening of today. They have anhydrous ammonia at the site and pretty much everything Mr. Farmer could use. Have you subscribed to Travels with Bill yet? We're traveling across Canada looking at amazingly interesting things. We got invited to this one, and if you want to invite us out, well, certainly get in touch with us. Travelswithbill.com, you can find some contact information there. When you subscribe to the channel, you'll see all our latest episodes, usually about one a week, sometimes even more. Not just traveling, you'll also find some trains. Farewell for now from just outside of Swan River, Manitoba at the Co-op Agro new fertilizer plant. We'll see you next time on Travels with Bill.